So why bother with container gardening? Because it's convenient and you don't need a lot of space, and most importantly it is very productive and great for beginners. How are you guys doing? This is Martin from Gardens for Life. I am sorry we didn't put out so much content in terms of tips and tricks lately since our pizza garden videos. Those were actually a lot of work and a lot of editing just to make those and get them out there. And also we had some container garden videos that we want to finish up on. What I'd like to do now is after our plant sale was on there since about nearly 2 weeks ago, and I'd like to thank you guys very much for ordering plants and supporting us. We'll put that money to good use and buy more seeds and compost and more pots and trays and all the rest of it, and we'll grow more plants and hopefully make a bigger range of plants, affordable, very affordable plants available to you guys. So one thing I'd like to give you guys now is actually just 3 tips on container gardening, how to grow a plant in a container, such as this one here. Tip number 1 is what kind of a medium would you use to grow plants? And some people use topsoil and use chemical fertilizer or some sort of fertilizer. I wouldn't bother. I just use pure compost. You can use any kind of compost, whatever kind you like. We use mushroom compost, which is about usually 4 to 6 months old or older. The older the better. 1 to 2 years is even better. And you can basically fill the containers with compost. I'll show you here. This is, for example, a 2-liter pot with pure compost, and as you can see, it's nice and fluffy, the texture. It allows the roots to grow straight through it without any obstruction, and there's no rocks in it, and the roots can actually breathe. That's the important thing. Don't ever push down the compost, especially in a container, so that the roots can actually take up water through osmosis, which is actually just a process of gaseous water being absorbed by the roots, including minerals and other nutrients as well. So use pure compost when you're potting. You can use a sprinkle of rock dust, volcanic rock dust, which is really good for minerals and trace minerals. I would highly recommend it. You can purchase them in any good online nursery or garden shop. I believe Fruit Hill Farm has some. That's where we get it from anyway. You can also add a little bit of seaweed dust if you like. You don't have to though, because the plants will be fine. Just use pure compost. Maybe amend it a little bit with some volcanic rock dust. That's what I would do in any size pot, no matter what kind of plants you're growing, more or less. Basically for flowers, or even fruit bushes in a large pot, or even potatoes, growing potatoes in containers as well, which we have a video update coming out soon now because they're actually maturing. I'll show them to you in a minute. So one of the things you can grow in containers, like these crates here, in fairly deep compost, is carrots. And actually they work remarkably well and they're very productive. And we found that we don't even have to tin them at all. You just sprinkle seeds on top of the compost and cover it slightly. And here's some carrots we took from this container a minute ago. Now, Jacob will show you how to pull the carrot now. Here, take the big one. Look at that one. Take that one. You pull it up. This one. This one. Good boy. It's a big one. Show it to the camera. Look at that. That's a pretty sizable carrot. Of course, you want to eat that now, don't you?
Yeah. Wash it.
Yeah, we need to wash it.
Wash it.
If you let the kids harvest the food, they'll eat it. So the second tip is container size, and that's really important because you got to figure out how much compost have you got and how big of pots can you store, like where are you going to put them, and do you have the space to keep them. And oftentimes you need to keep them somewhere in a sunny spot if it's flowers or fruits, but if it's only leafy greens such as salads and even kale, actually you can actually keep those in semi-shade. That's no problem at all, or even in shaded conditions in some cases, but they just won't be quite as productive as they would be if you give them a bit more sunlight. And container size is really important because you can actually get, for example, you could keep a mint plant. Hang on a second. Here's a mint plant. This is an Egyptian mint, a round leaf mint. And you can see it's only in a 2-liter pot. So it's quite a nice plant. And if you try and pull that up, look, the kind of roots are kind of at the bottom. Now look, that is what we'd call pot bound, because it's been there since, it's been in this container since last year. If you were to plant this out now, simply tear up the roots a little bit, and then you can plant it in situ where you're going to keep it. Mint plants are probably best kept in a pot or in pots because they do spread quite a bit. Some mint plants don't spread as much as others. So like iced tea, for example, and Egyptian mint too is actually known not to spread as much, and pineapple mint as well. But they still do spread, but that can be a good thing if you like a lot of mint. So as for container sizes, as you can see, this you could keep easily on a windowsill, for example, even on in the kitchen, so you can always cut away at it, or you can keep it outside if you want to grow more of it. In order to store it, I would suggest planting it in the ground outside, or using a big container like 10 liters or more. Like we use buckets for most of them, about 12 to 14 liters. And here's a Paulonia tree that Bianca was growing, and you can see here this is really mostly temporary because we're going to plant these out into our garden when they get a little bit more mature. Tip number 3 is how do you know how long you can keep a plant in a container, in a certain size pot, for example? Well, the first hint would be if you just kind of turn the plant upside down, as I showed you earlier. You can turn it upside down like this and then kind of push it out, and then you can see if it's root bound or pot bound like this, it's worth repotting, because it has depleted all the space there is in the little 2-liter pot. So you can tear up the roots a little bit, cut them up, and just put it into a bigger container. And also you'll find that it will have actually most likely depleted the actual soil, the nutrients available to it in the compost that's in that pot as well. So what you can do is give it a fresh lease of life by giving it some fresh compost as well. You can do the same thing in an existing pot, but you would have to kind of scrape away some of the, in a bigger pot now this would be, you'd have to scrape away some of the compost and then add new compost to the pot. If it's already in a very large pot, that's most of the time that's all you can do with it. For example, our Christmas tree is actually in a 35-liter pot, and I'll show you that here. As you can see, it has been in the pot for the last 3 years now. This is actually the 3rd Christmas now we're going to have with this Christmas tree, and we bought it was only about half that size, I'd say, and it's been growing out of every tip about 4 inches or 10 centimeters every year. So it's definitely doing very well, and I believe plants can grow actually quite big and quite happily in a large pot, as long as you make sure that they have enough nutrients and that they're kept healthy. All you can do is if the plant, if you cannot repot it, for example, you just don't have a larger pot available, for example, you can actually always give it a bit of extra nutrients, for example a bit of compost tea, or a light sprinkle of volcanic rock dust on top, and a bit of seaweed dust as well, or chicken manure pellets would work too. You can kind of sprinkle them just on the top here, on top of the plant, and water them in. And every time it rains, or every time if the plants are kept outside, or every time you water them, the nutrients will actually be kind of brought down into the soil. Now let me just bring you over here. Here's, for example, a mint, a big mint plant. This is actually a basil mint, a very different one. This is in a 12-liter pot, and it's doing really well. I expect that will actually do fine in that pot for several years actually. So we don't have to worry about it too much, and you get quite a bit of production out of it too. So you can, here's a peppermint, so you can, that way you can actually kind of keep it lower maintenance as well. Otherwise you'll end up having to look after it a little bit more. The smaller the pot, the more watering you have to do, and the more often you have to water it. Here are the potatoes. As you can see, They are doing very well. The plants are very big in comparison to the pots. These are actually 14-litre buckets, and there's 10 of them here. And we'll do a harvest video on those. We have a planting potatoes in pots video too. I'll link that below. And here's some comfrey in a pot or in a crate. Despite everybody saying comfrey doesn't like to grow in pots, it's doing fine here in our place. Here's some oca plants. As you can see, there's quite a lot of them here. And they're actually just these crates as well again. Now actually, the oca plants do much better in buckets, which I'll just show you over here. See, we usually plant one plant into a bucket, and they do really well. We have a harvest video on oca grown in a pot. This is a 10-litre pot. Here's a 14-litre bucket. Even though the plant will recede after the first frost, it'll put all its energy straight back down its last boost, and it's already been producing. It started producing tubers already, and they will still keep on putting on foliage for a while. Here's some that I just planted last night. They were the 2-litre plants into buckets, and I wanted to show you one here. So what we'll do is we'll just show you. This is about a 14-litre pot, or maybe 12 litres. You kind of make a hole here. What we'll do is we'll just use a pot to scoop out about 2 litres worth of compost. I'm using just one hand to do all of this now, because I'm kind of holding the camera with the tripod. And what I'll do here is now, I'll just show you. You push the plant out like this, and as you can see, it's a little root bound or pot bound, but with oca that's okay. We'll just break the roots very lightly. Now there's some insects as well. We don't want to bury them. Wood lice. Now, okay. So then what we'll do is we'll just take it and we'll make a hole, and we'll simply plant it here without pushing down too hard. And then we'll just take the excess soil and put it around it. And that's how you plant an oca plant into a pot. That's it. And that'll turn into a plant like this one in no time. Maybe about a month or so, I believe. These ones here have been in these pots for about a month and a half now, since about the start of June, and maybe mid-June. So I'll pick these up. You can also grow fruits in pots as well, such as gooseberries and red currants. I'll show you more of those now. We're also growing some strawberries in crates, which I would highly recommend doing. Here's some more ocas growing in crates, and they're doing very well. Minimal effort and pretty good harvest. Here's some Chinese artichokes. Really nice vegetable you can grow. It's in the mint family, and it's got these tubers, edible tubers, rhizomes, that you can actually eat in a salad raw, and they're really nice. Herbs are really good to grow in a container. This is a thyme plant in a 10-litre bucket or pot, and I suspect it'll be okay in that for about 2 years or 3 years, and we'll start feeding it then. And this is a sage plant, and here's some black currants. It's a red currant, there's a black currant, and here's a lovage plant. A really nice herb for cooking. And here is the Christmas tree. Look at this. This is the container it's in, and it's doing very well. I won't move it now, but it's actually maybe about 4.5 foot tall now, nearly 5. And it's a live Christmas tree. We just keep moving it out after Christmas, maybe mid-January, and move it back in at the start of December. So that works out really nicely. Here's some more currants on this side. This is in a slightly bigger pot. And this is a red currant bush. This is an olive tree, which you can see is doing very well. We might plant that into the Wallapini when we build it. That's our subtropical greenhouse, or 12-month warm greenhouse. Over here you have some marshmallow. As you can see, you can grow it in pots. It's in a 15-litre pot, and it's been growing in that pot for 2 years now, and you can, it's doing very, very well. Here's another one, and here's another olive tree, and here's a hydrangea in a large 35-litre pot, and it's doing very well here. It has flowered every year for 2 years now. Chives are very good. We do some polyculture pots as well with a woody species, and some, like a currant for example, some lovage, some herbs, oregano, chives, a bit of sage as well. Here's some crates filled with compost, and we're going to transplant these seedlings. This is Mizuna, or mustard green. You can transplant it very easily. I'll just show you here. What I'll do is I'll just pop one out and I'll show you how to do it. You push it at the bottom and you just take it out. It's a nice strong seedling, and what we do then is we just make a hole and we plant it, and that's it. As easy as that. So these have been in here for rooting for about a week now, and we'll do the rest of the crates too. So now there's different types of salads here. It's a really nice way to grow salads near your back door, so you always have fresh greens, and you can actually just kind of make it very convenient to actually just walk out and get some just before the dinner is ready, and that way they stay very fresh as well. So I hope you enjoyed that video. If you have any questions, please leave a comment below, and please like the video or give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and all the best.